Greetings. Welcome to the Asana Kitchen podcast. I'm David Garrigues, and I'm going to speak with you today about this 10-day grain fast that I'm in the middle of doing. And so it's a very personal podcast, actually, because I'm going to talk about kind of my views about diet and practice, and so I'm not like claiming big authority on the diet aspect of things, even though I feel it's a crucial aspect of the practice, like to the point where the daily discipline of asanas, breathing, mudras that we do, the ASHTANGA regimen, that the diet is as much as 50% of the overall discipline, right? That's how important it is, the food that I eat. And it's very easy to overlook this aspect of things for various reasons, but one of them being that sort of it's all about our relationship to the material, right? And so as we do yoga, we kind of, it just naturally happens, the lessening our use of the material world. And that's right, the tapas is discipline or heat or restraint, and same with yama, the first limb, that those are restraints. And so we're in this kind of deep ongoing process of contemplating our desires, our appetites, and reining them in, checking them, and trying to turn our attention to the spiritual dimension of life that's juxtaposed or oppositional to the material side. So, in short, as a yogi, it's like one of your few pleasures, or from the wide array of pleasures in the world, it kind of gets reduced down to some simple basics like food, and so we can form habits and kind of indulgences around our food and pay consequences for it that can't be made up by doing that 90 minutes or 2 hours or even more of practice per day, right? Because it's like, I think we'd like to have the belief, and I think it's a belief that happens in with all kind of serious exercisers, that if you exercise enough, or if you're physical enough, you do enough postures, enough breathing, enough vinyasas, then you can eat anything you want, and you'll digest it and you'll be fine. And that is simply not true, right? And at the very least, it's like working against yourself. It's making it, so if you have a poor diet and you're eating the wrong foods or too much food, and then you go to practice, or eating for the wrong reasons, and you go to practice, then there's going to be interference to your digestion, your physical body, what you can do, and psychologically, emotionally, mentally as well. And so for me, and the COVID, this lockdown has really made it challenging. I've even heard that people, it's just so standard to put on weight during COVID, that called it like the COVID-15, like the extra 15 pounds that, as an average, could be more, could be less. But I certainly put on weight in the lockdown and sort of loosened my standard and of my diet and paid the price. So many of you know that I'm struggling kind of with dizziness, and it got really bad recently, to the point of vertigo and just unexpected attacks and tinnitus, and really, really struggling with my health. And I have an okay diet, but I didn't think to look there in the beginning, and I thought that by cutting the obvious things like caffeine and things that I might see some progress, and resting more and getting off the screen and doing these things, but none of it seemed to help, and or make a big difference. And I even went to the ear doctor, and they were saying, it's kind of dramatic, like the guy I have my skateboard with me, because strangely, even though when I was getting this vertigo, I could still skateboard and bicycle and stuff. But I would wake up in the middle of the night with the room spinning. But he was like, well, you're going to have to get a new mode of transportation. He's like, can you even walk in a straight line? And then he was telling me that there are options, one of the options, like one of the main options, if I kept going down the road I was going, was basically putting a chemical in your inner ear and killing it, and hoping that cures the vertigo but doesn't take away your hearing. And so obviously that scared the bejesus out of me, and I decided I'm going to try a cleanse, fast, and so that's what I'm in the middle of. I'm in a 6-day brown rice or grain fast. And so I'm eating only brown rice and gamaggio, which is a kind of Japanese condiment of just ground sesame seeds and a little bit of sea salt, and water. And so I'm in day 6, and I've just amazing how the results of this completely turned around my situation, and just really driving home for me this connection between like the food you eat and what your objectives are by practicing your asanas and such every day, that they're a pair, and it's easy to lose track of how important and how influential what you eat is in your overall health, in the health of your practice, in the progress that you make, and in kind of all the wishes that you have for your practice. You have this major ally at your fingertips, at your taste buds, but you have to do it. You have to really embrace the discipline of the diet. And it's so funny to me because I've done fasts before, so this grain fast, I think it might be kind of more broadly used or known about, but I'm doing it within the context of macrobiotics, and I've long been influenced by the macrobiotic diet and the kind of philosophy of approach to food. But in all this years, and I've been a kind of fringe person in the macrobiotics. I've never followed it super strictly, but it definitely, I consider it like the diet that I base what I do on, and apparently not very effectively at times, in recent months. But anyway, for the macrobiotic world, it's called number 7. And number 7 diet is what I'm doing. And it's such a smart thing to do when you really come down to it, because rice is the center of my diet. Even if I go out and eat all kinds of other different foods, rice remains my staple food. And I consider it an art form to cook it in a pressure cooker and also to make the gumaggio. But then to then single that food out and say, okay, no other foods are gonna, I'm not gonna eat any other foods for this little block of time, is something I knew about, but I never did it. And when I would fast, I would do a fruit fast, like watermelon or apples or something. And I don't know, there's something appealing about that. But I'm really happy I decided to try the grain fast, the brown rice fast, because of the whole simple sugars versus complex sugars angle, right? That the watermelon, it's like gives a spike to your blood sugar. It's much harder to keep an even kind of homeostasis in you. And whereas the grain, the whole grain, when you cook it, you've got a much more complex breakdown of the sugars, and then a more even flow through your system. And so I'm having a very good experience and getting dramatic relief from my symptoms, like no more vertigo, not even close to that. I still have some tendinitis. It's not like an absolute miracle cure or anything, but I went from just feeling like I was really spiraling down to feel like I'm walking back towards health, in just 6 days now. And I want to read to you, it's a book, it's called Rice and the 10-Day Rice Diet. And it's a kind of collection of writings. And I bought the book. It's not that great of a book, honestly, but it does have an article in it, a short article by a man I really respect in the macrobiotic world. His name is Herman Ihara, and wonderful man. That's a Herman and then Aihara. And he wrote that here's some of the benefits that people experience when they do the brown rice fast. And they're modest benefits, but I've definitely noticed them. So number 1 is reduction of excess weight. Okay, so the COVID-15 is reducing. And so it says almost all overweight people reduce their weight to a normal weight with the number 7, even though many of them did not strictly follow it. Okay, number 2 is almost all people experienced a better feeling, a clear mind, and detachment from worries. Yeah, so this is a better feeling, a clear mind, right? And this is why we do our practice. The asanas is to get a better feeling and a clearer mind and detachment from worries. And so it's amazing to me that both with our diet, we can also influence that, not just by getting on the map, but by what we eat, right? And like drinking coffee and eating processed foods and bars and just these kind of foods that really belong in the kind of wider circle of more like occasionally, that I allowed to become more like daily or almost habitual, were adding to my the challenges and the stress and my worries or my fears. And because the COVID, it's not the possible kind of letting up on the discipline of the diet. There's amazing stress in the lockdown and in the changing world, and just how I had to go from live teaching to completely online, and just really stressing about so many different things, just tripping my system out to the maximum. And so just doing this purification, the simplification, it's like is really a blessing, and is really in keeping with the yogi way, right? And I could say, I could browbeat myself or feel like I failed as a yogi to get unwell, or to become more lax, let up. But it's hard to keep things going, day after day, month after month, year after year, without any real season. It's like constant discipline. It's so challenging, and yet that really is what's called for, and that the yogi, as a yogi, that's what you sign up for. And it's so interesting because you whether you're a yogi or just a person that wants a happy life, a full life, you have to keep growing. You have to keep changing and learning and going further. And for a yogi, though, then that means to continue to analyze your relationship to the material world and cut out excess. So it's like your sacrifice has to increase as time goes by. And it can seem like what your pleasures are, your kind of enjoyment of the material world, keeps getting narrower and narrower. And I'm 60 years old now, though. I've had 60 years to enjoy so many pleasures. And it's interesting because I liken it to this idea of increasing your sacrifice, and meaning eating like a monk, right? Eating your gruel, and that being your main thing. So in India, they have the 4 stages of life that are really different than the Western idea of the 4 stages of life, especially at the end. Okay, so you've got your youth phase, your childhood, and then you've got your kind of young adult phase, and they call it brahmacharya, of almost like its own kind of abstinence, of discipline as you kind of set your course in life. And then you have the householder phase. It's a long phase, right, of where you're a family person and you work. But then here's where, and that's all pretty standard across the world, I would say. But then in India, this is where there's a sharp contrast. Okay, so because their last stage of your life is the forest dweller, where you actually let go of your possessions and turn to ascetic practices and attend to your spiritual dimension. And whereas with us, we want to retire and enjoy all of our, we've stored up all our material, right, with our retirement, and we've kind of made it so we can have the easy life on the way out and retire and go down to Florida or whatever, right, and or Arizona, and it may not look exactly like that, but certainly that's more of the thrust of things, is that retirement is a kind of life of ease and plenty. Okay, and for me, I definitely identify with this forest dweller mentality much more. That it makes more sense to me, and like this experience that I'm having right now. And so what's interesting too to me is that it seems to me the life expectancy is much longer than it was in the past, and that in 60 years old, you could, in the past, that would potentially be, headed, you're still in the householder phase, but you're sort of headed also for that forest dweller phase. Like 65 is the age of retirement, kind of official. And yet, for me, I don't see that at all, right? For various reasons. One is the love of my work, is that I don't want to retire, and that's probably the main one. But there's other ones too, which is that I haven't built up a big nest egg all along here, and so I have to keep teaching to earn my keep, and so I don't see that. I don't see my householder phase ending even in the next 20 years, say. And so, but at the same time, my evolution as a person, and like this, what I'm saying to you is, it's like this continuing to grow. What does that mean for you? What does it mean to continue to sacrifice and to go deeper into becoming the person that you're meant to be? And for me, it has a forest dwelling aspect, like a withdrawal from the material world in every way, and including diet. And so there's this whole simplification process that I'm called to. Like, I feel, I guess I'm partly resisting it, because I feel that that's what was happening with this, these challenging with my health that I've been having, and I didn't automatically go to strong purification measures to help myself. So part of me is resisting, but part of me is also really feels drawn to it, and also I feel like it's the only way. That for me, the way forward is a purification, a simplification, and a kind of yogi in the cave mentality, at the same time as performing my whole householder duties. Okay, and so that's a delicate balance, because I feel like as a householder, as a like a real strong worker in the world, and just having many responsibilities and really being active, you have to make use of material. Of course, you can't live on only rice, right? And you can't withdraw and go into that kind of solitude and quiet. And you've got to, so there's a real balance that we've got to strike. And I'm imagining that many of you will either are or will be facing very similar things to what I'm talking about and what I'm going through. And so there's a kind of delicate balance that we need to find of kind of being part of the world and interfacing with all that offers in relationships and work and food and drink and other ways of imbibing material. And then also, though, honoring this amazing part, because there's people that they live on rice. It's not just a 10-day thing. It's like rice and a little bit of vegetables, and This is the monk's diet, right? There's not much to it when it really comes down to it. And here's some other benefits that were on that list. So we had the reduction of excess weight, a better feeling, clear mind, detachment from worries, energetic. So you feel energetic and easy to walk and run, and easy to do asana. See, this is an amazing thing that your practice blossoms when you add the diet element to it. The power of eating like a monk, we'll say, like getting to the center and cutting out the foods that are meant to be more on the fringes. Okay, and then also, here's the last one. It cures constipation. So your digestion flows, right? And so it says many people are constipated when they eat refined foods because there's no roughage to stimulate bowel movements in the large intestine. So whole grains, especially rice, have much roughage, which causes the movement. I think that's going to do it for this segment. I just wanted to check in with you and share that this little piece of what I'm going through, and I feel like it's relevant to all of us. And the message is simply figure your diet largely into your overall discipline. All right? So I have a lot of upcoming things that you can check on my website. I have a course on the Bhagavad Gita and asana actions. I've got, some other ones, but bandhas, bandha basics and mudra magic coming up. I have a poetry book that I'm releasing. There's a party for it coming up, I think, April 15th or 16th. And got live dates coming up in Europe and Philadelphia. And so I'd love to work with you all. And yeah, namaste.